Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Bhagavad-gītā class reading on a Saturday morning here in the East Coast of Canada and America. And around the world, we want to thank all of you who are joining us at various times according to your time, your zone, time zone, and participating in this Sadhu Sangha, the Association of Devotees, based on transcendental sound. This is the essence of Krishna Consciousness, is association with devotees who have a common interest in discussing about the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Krishna, and our Guru, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda Ki Jai. So I wanted to mention that we have a media team with the Prabhupada Disciples Association that meets once a week right now, every Thursday. And we are working on an agenda to expand our work in presenting Krishna consciousness globally through the internet. So it's a very exciting program. And we do invite other people if you're interested in helping us. We have quite a few things to do on our list, our agenda for preaching work. If you have an aptitude for the internet and internet technology, then please get a hold of me, Vishwakarma Das. Also, you can see my name if you're on Facebook media, I come up with two different names. One, Vishwakarma Das, and the other is my Karmi name, Bobby Hebert. The reason my name, some people have asked me, how come you're using that name? I've been on Facebook, I think, for 12 years or something. And when I first started out, it was mostly to promote myself as a musician and a music promoter, entrepreneur type person. And I accumulated many thousands of people as friends from that industry. And gradually now I've switched over completely to a Krishna conscious focus on all my online presence. So this is why you might see my name like that. I'm not hiding my name. It's just the way it's evolved passing through time. So that's give you a clarification. The other thing I'd like to mention is about people that attend the classes. People that attend the classes here are doing it on a voluntary basis. That's much different than paid. In other words, people that go to work, they go to work to get money, and they have to show up at whatever time they're scheduled with their employer. They have to be there. In this particular situation, this is not a paid job. This is a voluntary service that all of us are accepting. Similarly, in our devotional service, it's a voluntary service. We're serving Prabhupada without any desire for name, fame, or money. We're only interested in propagating Krishna consciousness to other people. So this platform is a platform for people to associate with each other in this class for the sake of becoming purified. That's the idea. Nasta prayeshu abradeshu nicham bhagavata sevaya. So by regular attendance in these classes, Krishna explains, when you hear and chant in association with devotees, all the inauspicious things that are in the heart, because we all are fallen people. We're born into this world of difficulty and confusion. And the way you get out of it is by coming together in an association of devotees to make advancement. So by hearing about the transcendental pastimes of Krishna. So this is the point here, that we have people from around the world coming to our classes, and we welcome everyone to the classes. And we appreciate your input, very much so. It gives strength to what we're doing. As far as what people do in their personal lives, that's their business. It really is. It's not our business. Our business is a class here. Today, it's an 1.5-hour session where we all participate in hearing and chanting with the hope that we'll become purified of our confusion. People are confused, not only in the material platform, but even in the spiritual circles that we deal with. There's a lot of confusion, whether it's the ISKCON camp or the Ritvik camp or this camp or that camp. There is a lot of chaos, everyone. And we see that. And we're blessed here at the Prabhupada Disciples Association. We're very blessed, Mataji, to be in this situation where we don't have that kind of confusion. There is no confusion here. And it is the hope of our group that when people come here, it'll dissipate their confusion and they'll become fixed on the devotional platform of Krishna consciousness through our association as a group. So that is one of our mandates here, is to help everyone. We're a compassionate, of course, we don't want people to come to our group that are going to cause trouble philosophically during the class. That's it. If you come to the class, you can participate. You're welcome to give your questions. You're welcome to give comments and be part of our discussion. That's the purpose of the class. And we're hoping with our senior godbrothers here and other good devotees, all the good devotees that we do have, that we'll be able to dissipate the confusion, that if you have some confusion, we can help resolve it in a Krishna conscious manner. So this is just an understanding of what our purpose is here, is to help others. That is our purpose. And if somebody doesn't like somebody because of the way they are when they're not here, they could deal with it in their own particular way. They can reach out to them. They could call them up. They can do anything they want to deal with the matter. But with us, our main focus is Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, to hear, chant, and remember about the glorious pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is our focus. Let's be clear. Krishna consciousness is something we practice every day of our lives. That means we want people to chant their rounds. Do we supervise them? Oh, did you do your rounds or not? That is a personal responsibility that every person has to take for their own spiritual advancement. That's their personal responsibility. Prabhupada said 16 rounds. I'll finish up. I had a person reach out to me yesterday, say, oh, you have to chant 64 rounds a day. Some guy in the States, the USA. And I thought, Okay, that's a good thing to chant 64 rounds. I recently read that section from Mukunda's pastimes where Prabhupada had told him, oh, you've got to chant 64 rounds. And then when he saw the disturbance in the mind of Mukunda, he dropped it to 32. And then he dropped it to 16, just to go quickly. And then that was the rule. So I told this person online, I said, well, when I was initiated, Prabhupada told me, you have to chant 16 rounds minimum. He didn't say 64. That was in 1971. So I went to the person's Facebook page because I'm that kind of guy. I want to know who you are, what you're about. And I saw that he had some quotes from Narayan Maharaj. Oh, very interesting. So I asked him that question. I said, by the way, are you a disciple of Narayan Maharaj? He goes, yes, I am. So this gave me an understanding of where this person was coming from. And like that, I wished him well and told him, well, it's not really a group you should be part of because we have a different point of view. Prabhupada is our Diksha and Siksha Guru. So Krishna Consciousness, we're coming together on the basis of a common understanding of this philosophy. And therefore, Prabhupada encouraged us to chant 16 rounds a day. That was the fundamental principle, because we all have responsibilities to keep the house clean, to do our laundry, to cook in the kitchen, to do our deity worship, to go to work. If you work 8 hours a day, then you have other responsibilities to family, etc. So this was a concession to the Kali Yuga Western devotees. I call myself a Kali Yuga Vaishnava. So from Hamilton, the steel town. So you do the best you can, but everyone should try to chant minimum 16 rounds every day. Figure out how to do it. If you want some advice, please call us up. We can share it with you, and we'll go forward in Krishna consciousness back home, back to Godhead. So we're going to ask our wonderful Bhaktivedanta, our amazing leader of the media class, our media team, to please play this amazing kirtan of Prabhupada chanting Jaya Radha Madhava, Kunja Bihari. And after that, we'll have our discussion with our friend Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu from the West Coast, up in the mountains, chopping wood and trying to survive in a difficult situation on his own with his wife. Hari Hari Bol, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Sai. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavavrinda ki jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai, Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta ki jai, Sri Radha Krishna Gaur Gopinath Sam Kund Radha Kund Giridhardhan ki jai, Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Navadvip Dham ki jai, Swami Bhaktivedanta ki jai, Ganga Mai ki jai, Jamuna Mai ki jai, Tulasi Devi ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Swami Bhaktivedanta ki jai. All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the assembled Lord. Thank you very much.
Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaguna Raghunatan Anvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahaguna Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Shcha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namah Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So today we'll be reading from Bhagavad-gītā As It Is, the original non-adulterated 1972 Macmillan edition. We'll be reading from chapter 7, text number 15 on page 381. All synonyms, translations, and purports by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, Founder-Ācārya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also known as the Krishna Consciousness Movement. Namam dushkritino mudaha prapadyante naradama mayaya paritajnana asuram bhavam ashrita not mam unto me. Duskritinaha, miscreants, mudaha, foolish, prapadyanti, surrender, naradama, lowest among mankind, mayaya, by the illusory energy, aparita, stolen by illusion, jnana, knowledge, asuram, demonic, bhavam, nature, ashritaha, accepting. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. It is said in Bhagavad-gītā that simply by surrendering oneself unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, one can surmount all the stringent laws of material nature. At this point, a question arises. How is it that educated philosophers, scientists, businessmen, administrators, and all the leaders of ordinary man do not surrender to the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, the all-powerful personality of Godhead? Mukti, or liberation from the laws of material nature, is sought by the leaders of mankind in different ways and with great plans and perseverance for a great many years and births. But if that liberation is possible by simply surrendering unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, why don't these intelligent and hardworking leaders adopt this simple method? The Gita answers this question very frankly. Those really learned leaders of society like Brahma, Shiva, Kapila, the Kumaras, Manu, Vyasa, Devala, Asita, Janaka, Prahlada, Bali, and later on Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, Sri Chaitanya, and many others who are faithful philosophers, politicians, educators, scientists, etc., surrender to the lotus feet of the Supreme Person, the all-powerful authority. Those were not actually philosophers, scientists, educators, administrators, etc., but who pose themselves as such for material gain, do not accept the plan or path of the Supreme Lord. They have no idea of God. They simply manufacture their own worldly plans and consequently complicate the problems of material existence in their vain attempts to solve them. Because material energy nature is so powerful, it can resist the unauthorized plan of deities and baffle the knowledge of planning commissions. The atheistic plan makers are described herein by the word duskritina, or miscreants. Kritina means one who has performed meritorious work. The atheistic plan maker is sometimes very intelligent and meritorious also, because any gigantic plan, good or bad, must take intelligence to execute. But because the atheist's brain is improperly utilized in opposing the plan of the Supreme Lord, the atheistic plan maker is called duskritina, which indicates that his intelligence and efforts are misdirected. In the Gita, it is clearly mentioned that material energy works fully under the direction of the Supreme Lord. It has no independent authority. It works as the shadow moves in accordance with the movements of the object. But still, material energy is very powerful, and the atheist, due to his godless temperament, cannot know how it works, nor can he know the plan of the Supreme Lord. Under illusion and the modes of passion and ignorance, all these plans are baffled, as in the case of Hiranyakashipu and Ravana, whose plans were smashed to dust, although they were both materially learned as scientists, philosophers, administrators, and educators. These dushkritinas, or miscreants, are of 4 different patterns, as outlined below. 1, the mudhas are those who are grossly foolish, like hard-working beasts of burden. They want to enjoy the fruits of their labor by themselves, and so do not want to part with them for the Supreme. The typical example of the beast of burden is the ass. This humble beast is made to work very hard by his master. The ass does not really know for whom he works so hard day and night, He remains satisfied by filling his stomach with a bundle of grass, sleeping for a while under fear of being beaten by his master, and satisfying his sex appetite at the risk of being repeatedly kicked by the opposite party. The ass sings poetry and philosophy sometimes, but his braying only disturbs others. This is the position of the foolish worker who does not know for whom he should work. He does not know that karma, action, is meant for yajna, sacrifice. Most often, those who work very hard day and night to clear the burden of self-created duties say that they have no time to hear of the immortality of the living being. To such mudas, material gains which are destructible are life's all in all, despite the fact that the mudas enjoy only a very small fraction of the fruit of labor. Sometimes they spend sleepless days and nights for fruitive gain, and although they may have ulcers or indigestion, they are satisfied with practically no food. They are simply absorbed in working hard day and night for the benefit of illusory masters. Ignorant of their real master, the foolish workers waste their valuable time serving mammon. Unfortunately, they never surrender to the supreme master of all masters, nor do they take time to hear of him from the proper sources. The swine who eat the soil do not care to accept sweet meats made of sugar and ghee. Similarly, the foolish worker will untiringly continue to hear of the sense-enjoyable tidings of the flickering mundane force that moves the material world. 2. Another class of dushkritina or miscreant is the Naradhama, is called the Naradhama, or the lowest of mankind. Nara means human being, and Adhama means the lowest. Of the 8,400,000 different species of living beings, there are 400,000 human species. Out of these, there are numerous lower forms of human life that are mostly uncivilized. The civilized human beings are those who have regulated principle of social, political, and religious life. Those who are socially and politically developed, but who have no religious principles, must be considered Naradhamas. Nor is religion without God religion, because the purpose of following religious principles is to know the supreme truth and man's relation with him. In the Gita, the personality of Godhead clearly states that there is no authority above him and that he is the supreme truth. The civilized form of human life is meant for man's reviving the lost consciousness of his eternal relation with the supreme truth, the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna, who is all-powerful. Whoever loses this chance is classified as a Naradhama. We get information from revealed scriptures that when the baby is in the mother's womb, an extremely uncomfortable situation, he prays to God for deliverance and promises to worship him alone as soon as he gets out. To pray to God when he's in difficulty is a natural instinct in every living being, because he's eternally related with God. But after his deliverance, the child forgets the difficulties of birth and forgets his deliverer also, being influenced by Maya, the illusory energy. It is the duty of the guardians of children to revive the divine consciousness dormant in them. The 10 processes or reformatory ceremonies, as enjoined in the Manusmriti, which is the guide to religious principles, are meant for reviving God consciousness in the system of Varnashram. However, no process is strictly followed now in any part of the world, and therefore 99.9% of the population is Naradhama. When the whole population becomes Naradhama, Naturally, all their so-called education is made null and void by the all-powerful energy of physical nature. According to the standard of the Gita, a learned man is he who sees on equal terms the learned Brahmana, the dog, the cow, the elephant, and the dog-eater. That is the vision of a true devotee. Sri Nityananda Prabhu, who is the incarnation of Godhead as Divine Master, delivered the typical Naradamas, the brothers Jagai and Madai, and showed how the mercy of a real devotee is bestowed upon the lowest of mankind. So the Naradama, who is condemned by the personality of Godhead, can again revive his spiritual consciousness only by the mercy of a devotee. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in propagating the Bhagavata Dharma, or activities of the devotees, has recommended that people submissively hear the message of the personality of Godhead. The essence of this message is Bhagavad-gītā. The lowest amongst human beings can be delivered by this submissive hearing process only. But unfortunately, they even deny giving an oral reception to these messages and what to speak of surrendering to the will of the Supreme Lord. Naradamas, or the lowest of mankind, will fully neglect the prime duty of the human being. 3, the next class of Dushkritana is called Mayaya Aparitajnana, or those persons whose erudite knowledge has been nullified by the influence of illusory material energy. They are mostly very learned fellows, great philosophers, poets, literati, scientists, etc. But the illusory energy misguides them, and therefore they disobey the Supreme Lord. There are a great number of Maya Aparitajnanas at the present moment, even amongst the scholars of the Gita. In the Gita, in plain and simple language, it is stated that Sri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is none equal to or greater than him. He is mentioned as the father of Brahma, the original father of all human beings. In fact, Sri Krishna is said to be not only the father of Brahma, but also the father of all species of life. He is the root of the impersonal Brahman and Paramatma. The super soul in every entity is his plenary portion. He is the fountainhead of everything, and everyone is advised to surrender unto his lotus feet. Despite all these clear statements, the Mayaya Aparitajnana deride the personality of the Supreme Lord, that the blessed form, and consider him merely another human being. They do not know that the blessed form of human life is designed after the eternal and transcendental feature of the Supreme Lord. All the unauthorized interpretations of the Gita by the class of Mayaya Aparitajnana outside the purview of the Parampara system are so many stumbling blocks in the path of spiritual understanding. The deluded interpreters do not surrender unto the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, nor do they teach others to follow this principle. 4, the last class of Dushkritana is called Asuram Bhavam Ashrita, or those of demonic principles. This class is openly atheistic. Some of them argue that the Supreme Lord can never descend upon this material world, but they're unable to give any tangible reason as to why not. There are others who make him subordinate to the impersonal feature, although the opposite is declared in the Gita. Envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the atheist will present a number of illicit incarnations manufactured in the factory of his brain. Such persons whose very principle of life is to decry the personality of Godhead cannot surrender unto the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. Sri Yamunacharya Albandru of South India said, "O my Lord, you're unknowable to persons involved with atheistic principles, despite your uncommon qualities, features, and activities, and despite your personality being confirmed by all the revealed scriptures in the quality of goodness, and despite your being acknowledged by the famous authorities renowned for their depth of knowledge in the transcendental science and situated in the godly qualities. Therefore, 1, grossly foolish persons. 2, the lowest of mankind. 3, the deluded speculators. And 4, the professed atheists, as above mentioned, never surrender unto the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, in spite of all scripturals and authoritative advice. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances. We offer our respectful obeisances unto our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, who has opened our eyes, who has opened my eyes from the darkness of ignorance with the torchlight of transcendental knowledge. This is a very long purport, of which we'll give a very brief summary. Here, Krishna is explaining the 4 classes of men who do not surrender unto him. This is clearly stated in the text itself. Namam dushkritano mudaha prapadyante naradamaha. Prapadyante means to surrender. What we have is different persons due to non-devotional temperament, atheistic temperament, who do not accept the authority of the Supreme Lord, Lord Krishna. It's important to note here that the 4th class, the Asuram Bhava Masrita, Prabhupada describes them as this class being openly atheistic. In the current age of Kali Yuga, or the age of quarrel and hypocrisy, it's important to note that so many persons are being influenced by the atheistic propaganda of many misleaders. It's very important. There is constant propaganda, wave after wave of propaganda in newspapers, radio, television, internet, all different kinds of electronic media, basically encouraging people in sinful activities. People may say, well, what is that sinful activity? Prabhupada describes there are 4 principal sinful activities: illicit sex life, meat eating, gambling, and mental speculation, like that. The influence of Kali Yuga is very, very strong, and it increases constantly. Intoxication is another very strong principle. Just the other day, one of my neighbors was mentioning to me that there's a big problem in America with the different kinds of fentanyl. They probably have the same problem in numerous other parts of the world, but here it is especially pronounced that many people, especially young people, are trying to take this intoxication, this drug, illicit drug, to relieve pain, to relieve anxiety, or so-called relief. And many end up getting themselves in further problem, in further difficulties, some of them dying. Why are they doing this? Because they have forgotten their relationship with their well-wisher, Lord Krishna, God. It is quite significant here about the 3rd class of Duskritina, the Maya Aparita Jnana. This is the educated class that refuses. Prabhupada says, despite all these clear statements the Maya Aparita Jnana deride the personality of the Supreme Lord and consider him merely another human being. This is a very dangerous situation because they tend, with their knowledge or so-called knowledge, to mislead others. There is very much propaganda in the modern age to try to prove some theory of evolution, that different monkeys and different species evolve from one species to the next. The problem with that foolish idea is that nobody has ever been able to prove how a monkey goes to a human being. How? It has never been observed in human society. They think, they speculate, they theorize that the monkeys have evolved into human beings. Why is it that we don't see it nowadays? There was one disciple of Srila Prabhupada who went to Ceylon, Sri Lanka, in 1977, and who challenged a local scientist to transform a monkey into a human being right on stage. Of course, everybody laughed at this scientist because they know it was not going to happen. But there was considerable interest from the whole country. Everybody was fascinated with the argument. Of course, their reply is, well, it's over a very long period of time. Well, why doesn't it happen now? Why not? Because it's not possible. All these species are fixed. They don't evolve from one species to the other. That's another nonsense speculation. Prabhupada describes here, there's 8,400,000 different species of life. These are fixed by the arrangement of God, the arrangement of his material energy. But there's a class of men through their speculation, the Maya Parita Jnana, who tend to misguide people. They have a very stubborn mentality of refusing to accept the authority of God, claiming that God is not there, that there's no God. God cannot come here. That is another rascal proposition. Prabhupada said in this text here, well, why is it that he cannot come? What is the reason? They cannot give a reason. We see in the Bhagavad-gītā that God himself, Krishna himself, explained why he comes and when he comes. Yada yada hi dharmasya dlanir bhavati bharata abhyuttanama dharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chadushkritam dharmasam stapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Krishna comes in every millennium. And whenever there is a decrease in the practice of religion and an increase in irreligion. Well, why does he come? To protect, paritranaya sadhunam, to protect the pious and to destroy the demons, to kill the demons. Now, in this age, there are so many persons who are exhibiting demonic mentality. So has Krishna come in this age? Yes, he has. In a form of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 500 years ago, to actually show by example how to invoke the spiritual consciousness of everyone, to show how to destroy the demonic mentality of refusing to accept the personality of Godhead. How he has done that? Kali Yuga Yuga Dharma Namer Prachar. That in this age of Kali Yuga, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has come in the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in yellow golden color. Tatilage Pita Varna Chaitanya Avatar, the incarnation of Lord Chaitanya has come in his brilliant color to spread the Yuga Dharma, the religion for the age. What is that? The chanting of the name of Krishna, the chanting of the name of God. Simple, not complicated. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Now there's another class of demonic mentality of a person who often will pose as very learned, very educated, very expert in interpreting scriptures, but who deny the personal feature of God, the Mayavadis. Mayavadi Bhashya Sunane Hoy Sarvanash. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has warned that if one hears the commentary of the Mayavadis, all of his spiritual life will be finished. One should also be aware of many so-called Vaishnavas or pseudo-Vaishnavas who dare to criticize the exalted position of the pure devotee, of the empowered Acharya like Srila Prabhupada. Such persons, despite their educated degrees, their educated knowledge of Sanskrit, Bengali, and other languages, their thorough knowledge of scriptures, will have the audacity to criticize the exalted position of the pure devotee because he does not conform to the philosophy of the Naradamas. That is wrong. One should never criticize the Acharya. We see in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's a warning in connection with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the encounter with Prakashananda Saraswati in Benares, India, 500 years ago. That in that discussion, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained, Brahm Pramada Vipravlisha Karana Patava, Arsha Vignya Dosha Nahi Hesaba. That mistakes, illusion, cheating, all of these defects of conditioned soul, this does not appear in the words of great sages and great liberated persons. Srila Prabhupada is in that category. And one should not criticize His divine grace and his statements, even though they may be controversial, even though they may not conform to so-called modern convenience or so-called modern understanding. If one does not understand, then you should not criticize. You should read again, because there are many different explanations from Srila Prabhupada in many different lectures, many different conversations, in many different ways. We should not forget who we are dealing with here. We're dealing with an empowered, super empowered representative, one of the greatest saints in history, one of the greatest acharyas who ever graced this planet. And anybody describe their erudition, their scholarship, their so-called PhDs, whatever they may be, they should never have the audacity and the temerity to criticize Prabhupada, either directly or indirectly. Very dangerous position. Very dangerous position for anybody to take. If one does not understand or does not comprehend due to his conditioning, due to his materialistic mentality, then he should not criticize. That's why in the beginning, Vishwakarma Prabhu says our whole process, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam, to hear submissively, then to speak based upon hearing what we have heard from the empowered representative, the Shakti Avishavatar, and then to speak. That is the proper process of spiritual life. We could go on for 2 hours on this, but for now, we'll leave it. And I'll pass the floor to our good friend Vishwakarma Prabhu for further comments. Hare Krishna.
Hari Bo. Glories to Prabhupada. Thank you very much, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, for your explanation, brief explanation of our today's verse. I wanted to highlight a point here. There's a few points that came up, and I hope in our discussion that all of you will find some questions out of this purport that you can share with the group, and we can further illuminate the understanding. But Prabhupada makes a very sort of strong point here in the middle of the purport. It's a simple statement. I'll just read it here. However, no process is strictly followed now in any part of the world And therefore, 99.9%, okay, think about this, 99.9% of the population is Naradama. What does that mean in simple terms? That the whole world is going to hell, period. This is the reality of the Kali Yuga. When you're a member of the Sankirtan mission of Lord Chaitanya, you're part of what is called a revolutionary force. This is about the revolutionary activities of Lord Chaitanya to try and somehow or other bring people up from the level of animal life. Because primarily, people are only interested in four things, Vijaya Pandit: eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. That's it. It's basically animalistic. And all people are doing nowadays is sophisticating the animal process. With their intelligence, they're trying to become first-class animals. But that's it. For example, the killing of animals goes on every day. It is absolutely outrageous what is happening in the slaughterhouses. Even in India now, Vinkat Prabhu knows this. Even in India, they kill the cow. What to speak of in America, where McDonald's advertises billions sold. What kind of demons have infected this world? For example, in America, the president a few days ago gave a statement called the State of the Union address. Did he mention God anywhere in his conversation? Yes, he did at the end. In God we trust. After an hour and 15 minutes of talking, all he could say was some kind of flippant, in God we trust, but no understanding whatsoever. What is God? Who is God? And what is our relationship with him? And how we should guide our world based on godly principles. This is the Kali Yuga. And it's completely covered over with Maya, 100%. So make no, let there be no confusion that we're in a very difficult position here. Because we're living in a society that people reject people that are Krishna conscious, that are God conscious. That is going on. I have my own experience here in Hamilton. I mentioned it the other day. How many people here care about Krishna consciousness in this city? Well, I don't know, maybe 10, 20 out of 700,000 people. The rest of it is all just some kind of mental concoction, some kind of mental speculation that goes on. I want to refer forward to text 19 in the Gita here. Bahunam janmanam ante gyanavam mam prapadyate vasudeva sarvam iti sumahatma sudurlabaha. After many births and deaths, here Krishna is speaking to us. He who is actually acknowledged surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. So this is a proper understanding of who we are. All of us in this Prabhupada Disciples Association group. we are rare souls. This is not something that came about by chance or accident, but by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya and by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. So, if you feel you've been blessed by the mercy of the pure devotee, and you feel you've been blessed by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, you have a responsibility to share this knowledge with others. This is a critical part of what our practice of Krishna consciousness is. Actually, Krishna in the 18th chapter says that anyone who does this is very rare, and not only that, he is my dear friend. This is the highest service that we can render to other people, despite the fact that we're in a minority position. Yes, we're in a minority position. You know, one thing I wanted to mention about association, it is very important that we work together. This fault-finding tendency that goes on within even spiritual circles is not good. This is, right now, I find it personally very chaotic, dealing with everyone. Very chaotic, even amongst the spiritual people that we run across. Is everybody is criticizing this person, that person, this person, that person. It's revolting. It's pathetic. We're supposed to be Krishna conscious people that live and give example of how to get along based on the understanding that we're all parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. It's unfortunate, very unfortunate. And also, we find that people are narcissistic. They're self-centered. It's all about them. It's all about my money. It's all about my position. It's all about my family. It's all about me. That's the way it is. Even though people will hear the philosophy over and over and over and over again, they still doesn't sink in to their brain. So they can't sacrifice anything for anybody except themselves. This is unfortunate, very unfortunate. And it's very unfortunate because in this modern world, there is only one need that should be there, and that's the need of people to take up Krishna consciousness. That's the only shortage. And because of that problem, this whole world is gliding down to hell, period. Right now, everyone, we're on the verge of nuclear war. Now, someone would say, oh, well, I don't think so. Well, at any moment, anything could happen. I was on the walk when Prabhupada talked about the nuclear war back in the 70s in Mayapur. Prabhupada mentioned about it. He said, oh, soon there'll be a nuclear war. Never has there been an army that hasn't used the weapons that they developed for killing others. Right now in Europe, there's a huge war going on. So many people are being killed, but people think, oh, nothing will happen. They have a clock that they put up. It's a clock closer to the end of the world type of clock. What's that called, Vijay Pandit? I don't know it.
Doomsday clock.
Thank you, Venkat. Doomsday clock. Yes, there is a problem. There's constant animal slaughter. There's constant human slaughter. There's constant all kinds of slaughter going on. This is a demoniac society we live in. So even amongst the demons, we have some devotees. It is our responsibility, everyone, to come together and try our best to work together to help other people get out of this illusion of Maya. So I'm going to ask Yaśodā-nandana to further comment on this particular verse. Yaśodā-nandana,
This
please.
is a very important point. Very important point, because we see that many devotees will use excuses not to cooperate with other devotees. One of the foremost reasons, well, I don't accept this interpretation about initiation. I don't accept this. I don't accept that. I don't like the way that this group of devotees is behaving. There's unlimited excuses to avoid surrendering to Krishna and his service. There's always going to be some excuses, but one has to go beyond these excuses. One has to pick his consciousness up to make tangible spiritual advancement. Otherwise, one will be in the fault-finding mode forever. It's one thing to find fault. Well, there's plenty of fault to find with everybody. This is the material world. But if one is sincerely engaged in wanting to push the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as presented by Srila Prabhupada, then one has to use his God-given brain to try to work together with other devotees to make some kind of practical arrangement to work. This is quite significant. Just like we are facing a situation all around the world, at any given time, there could be a world war by the mentality of some of these naradamas, people that are material motivated for power, for self-aggrandizement, for nonsense. So in spiritual life, there's no room for self-aggrandizement, self-promotion, and all this nonsense. Our only business should be to promote the pure teachings of the Acharya, the spiritual master, not to criticize the Acharya because something seems somewhat controversial or difficult to understand. That is not the proper way. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Venkat, I'd like you to make a comment, if you could, on the class this morning and some of the philosophy in the purport. Bhaktivedanta, thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So yeah, it's a very, I think, very important verse. And yeah, you were speaking about we're so much we're getting closer to war, or there might be a war, we don't know, right? So yeah, I mean, I was also seeing there was this earthquake in Turkey, right? Huge earthquake, and 24,000 people died or something, and it'll be much more, I think, because they're just trying to rescue, but it's going to be more, I think. So I was just thinking, like, we hear about that, but then we think, oh yeah, that's in Turkey, oh that's in the Turkey, Syria. Okay, it can't happen here. So that's I feel it's like illusion, and also about war. It can be like shutdown of the internet, because we take this internet for granted, but they can shut it down anytime. The people, world leaders, they can decide, oh, it's too, for whatever reason, they have their own agendas, so they can just shut it down at the click of a button. So yeah, just something to think about. But I mean, I don't think we're so concerned. I mean, this worries, if we're not Krishna conscious, then definitely all these things are very worrying. But I think, we have the right philosophy, so no matter what happens, we'll be good. That's what I think.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, everything is precarious. That means there's nothing for sure. The only thing that's for sure is death and taxes. So for one who is born, death is certain. For one who has died, birth is certain. So Krishna is giving us a warning here. And we walk through life not trying to make advancement in spiritual life. And that is our great misfortune. Prabhupada talks about the different demons in this purport. And I wanted to further explain that Prabhupada is a perfect speaker of Krishna consciousness. In other words, if you just read this purport that Prabhupada has given this morning, it basically explains the plight of the conditioned soul in the material world, just in one purport. In other words, some people, they want to write books on this and that, trying to explain what they're doing. But in one purport, Prabhupada is explaining the plight of the conditioned soul and the state of affairs that we're in this society that we live in. It's a very unfortunate situation. That's why it's very important to understand this point. It's not a question of how we got here. A lot of people want to get into this philosophy of how you ended up in the material world, Vijay Pandit. How did you end up here? What's the reason? Well, you can try to figure that out if you want, but the real problem is how to get out. Not how you got here, how to get out of here. And the way you get out of here is by this process of Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam. Hearing, chanting, remembering about Krishna, and remembering about the pastimes of Krishna, and participating in the Sankirtan mission of Lord Chaitanya, which we are doing with the Prabhupada Disciples Association. Anandabhaya, Mataji, you have a question?
Yes, Prabhu. I don't know so much a question, but a concern, and that is my husband and I have been just, what you guys were saying, that a war is inevitable. Almost, it seems like we don't know what the plan is. Krishna doesn't always give us the details, but we've been looking around for like devotee communities that we can go to just in case. I mean, we're living here in a little town outside of Harrisburg on half an acre, and on that half acre, we're able to grow all the food we need, except for our grains. We haven't tried that yet. But so, I mean, it's just kind of scary because here we are, we're surrounded. Everybody here has about a half acre, and it's just full of what do you call them? Discretinas?
Yes.
A lot of these people, there's a little area over here where they're really actually Satanists, and they do child abuse, satanic rituals. One of the little girls came to me last summer, and she told me that's what her family does. And she was revealing her mind to me. And I brought her in the house and, got her listening to the Maha Mantra and was giving her prasadam and letting her just tell me, what was going on. And she's actually pretty spiritual, and she loves that I call her Krishna Dasi, and she wants to spend time with me. She likes to hear when I put on headphones and let her hear the Maha Mantra. She loves it. But yeah, we're looking for a community, that because we don't want to be surrounded with some of the people here are good Christians actually, but they're still eating meat. We don't want to be surrounded by people like this when the cow dung hits the fan, So we're looking around this area, a place that we can run to real quick, just in case something like that happens. But we have an established temple room here. I mean, established service every day. It's difficult. So anyway, that's where we're at.
Well, thank you. I hearing your story, it really invokes a real, concern for you and all of us on how to deal with things moving forward. Quickly on a community, we have a affiliate group in South India. This is not something I'm recommending to you, or but they are. It's run by a devotee, Rathayatra. I think Yaśodā has more background on that, but they live in an amazing place in South India in the mountains. So they're completely away from modern civilization. And that is a community that's a Prabhupada-focused community. And then we also have our devotee godbrother in Australia, Balaram. And he has a group of people that are Prabhupada disciples, very serious and sincere people. And they're also growing a community there. And they've got some kind of money. And they're going to go ahead and do something like that. So that's emerging. We don't have anything in North America right now I can think of. Maybe someone else could let us know. But just a final note to you personally is carry on. You're doing fine. Krishna will protect you no matter what happens. If you just take shelter of the holy name, you carry on with your practice, even if you're the only one, you and your husband. Prabhupada mentions that if you're the only one, then preach to the walls. Krishna will listen to you. Krishna knows your sincere purpose. Just like we mentioned in the verse here, that such souls are very rare. This is the nature of the Kali Yuga, that the whole society, 99.9% of the people are demoniac. It's not just they're eating meat. This is a very sinful activity. For example, if you eat meat, how many births do you have to take for eating meat, Mother? Do you know what it is? It's thousands of births for every hair on the body of that animal. And people are going on like this, killing animals without any remorse, without any care. And this is the nature of this world. And people ask the question, why is there war? Prabhupada said this: if you can close the slaughterhouses in Chicago, that'll end the war. Because of this killing that's going on constantly. What to speak of abortion? And I'll ask Yaśodā to speak in a minute. Recently, I found out, as you know, Mother, I was in an orphanage. I was put into a nunnery when I was, just born. And after 75 years, I got a note 2 weeks ago that I have three brothers and one sister. After 75 years, I find out that I've got this, family connection with these people. So what does it mean? Really not much. This is a journey in time that we are experiencing as a group. And what we have to do is remember to stay focused on our twice-born existence. The twice-born means you're born by the grace of the spiritual master. You're born by the grace of Lord Chaitanya to follow this path. And even though there's only a few of us on this path, we have to be fixed in the process of devotional service and thank Krishna that we have this opportunity. Yaśodā-nandana, could you please speak?
Yeah, this is a very important point. Because in this material world, one never knows what will happen from time to time. Just like I was speaking to my neighbor across the street the other day, he says, we had 1 year around here where in the beginning of June, we woke up someday and there was 2 inches of snow on the ground. It lasted for a couple hours. And everybody was shocked. How could there be snow in the beginning of June? I said, well, it happens. This is the material world. Anything can happen. Recently, everybody heard there was a big earthquake in Turkey and Syria where over 12,000 people died, and they're still picking up bodies out of the rubble. So in this material world, there's always going to be some difficulty. And the only thing we can help people with is give them some chance to hear from the pure devotee. Hear the holy name of Krishna and hear the message given by the pure devotee. That's it, because the situation right now is very precarious anywhere in the world. And Mataji, it is really your good fortune that with your good husband, Jiva Goswami Prabhu, you were able to develop a little sample of Varnashram, grow your food or grow some food, and preach in any kind of way. Anybody you can give the Maha Mantra to, it will benefit them. Anybody. And even animals will benefit. It says in the Bhagavatam in the second canto, there's a place where Prabhupada explained that even the birds, the bees, the animals, the cats and dogs, they all benefit from hearing the name of Krishna. That is also mentioned in the Chaitanya Bhagavata by Haridas Thakur, that the holy name of Krishna is so powerful that all of these different living entities, they benefit from hearing the holy name of Krishna. So it's very nice that a good Vaishnavi like you is trying to encourage your neighbor or whoever you meet to hear the name and give him the name and give him a chance to associate with a pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. I think our friend, what's his name? Ganesh Prabhu, he made some kind of a comment. Maybe somebody would like to put it up.
Okay, put it up. Vijay Pandit, could you please comment to the group? Vijay Pandit is in Italy, and he's working there to try to help the conditioned souls in that country come to devotional service. Vijay Pandit, please.
Hare Krishna, Hare Bol. Can you hear me? Yes?
Yes, we can, Prabhu. You look very good, by the way.
Well, after listening what Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu said, what you said, Yashokama Prabhu, and Venkat Prabhu, after Ananda Bhakya make his comments, it's for sure that we have to go forward to associate with the group, with the devotees, with the real devotees. We have to print books, we have to distribute books, we have to help the people to bring this knowledge. We have to go out. Everybody in his own way. Ananda Bhakya can preach in their home, grow food. I also grow food. I have not so much land, but in my status, I go out. I try to go out and distribute books. Unfortunately, for so many years, I didn't distribute original books, but now something is moving. I distribute original books in the northern part of Italy where they speak German. Because of the Second World War, they became Italian, but it was Austria before. So there is a group in Germany that they translate the original books of Srila Prabhupada. They have already more than 12 books translated, and lately finished the Bhagavad-gītā, original Bhagavad-gītā, and already printed. I don't know how many thousands they printed. So I'm right now in Germany because of family problems. I'm born in Germany. I'm Italian originally. Mm-hmm. And on the way back to Italy, maybe next week, I hope so, I have to go through Frankfurt and pick up some original Bhagavad-gītā. So this is my view. We have to go on to distribute the real knowledge that Srila Prabhupada gave us, that Srila Prabhupada, how to say, he made us a present, a big present. So we have to start to appreciate and focus, as you say, Vishwakarma, in all the lectures. We have to focus every day in our small yatra, whatever we have. Even if we have just a caravan. I live in a caravan when I go in traveling Sankirtan. This is my yatra. Temple is there. I cook for Srila Prabhupada and the deities every day in this little van. Well, it's a 7 meter long van. It's not so small. I'm alone. And what I want to say is just we have to go forward and associate each other with my preaching in Italy is not so big because Italy is coming out, is still there in this so-called FISCON mentality, and they will put me in a cruise like Jesus Christ now because I'm preaching what they don't preach. I don't want to call them Ritvik system. This is just a system that Srila Prabhupada gave us, the Ritvik system, but I want to preach the real, the truth. So start with little, one by one, something is moving. Actually, Bhakti Veronica on the screen, you can see her. Mm-hmm. is many years she knows what happened in the movement, but she always remained quiet. She lives in Italy. She lives on the northern part of Italy where they speak German.
Mm-hmm.
So she was maybe alone in this in this trip, and I figured out her that she knew everything just a few months ago, and we know each other so many years, but she never talked to me, and I never talked to her about. No? So Krishna arranges. One is coming, one is going. So this is what I want to say.
Well, thank you very much. It's very encouraging to see people from around the world taking up the process of Krishna consciousness. It's a window into the transcendental realm. It's a vision. In other words, most people live on the mental plane. We all do, actually. And this mental state, this is a big problem, mental illness. In America, for example, they had a statistic that every day in the veterans from the U.S. Army, from the military, 25 people commit suicide per day from that particular sector. So suicide is becoming a very big item. Mental illness and suicide. We have a new Bhaktin here in Hamilton. She's a pharmacist. She's been dispensing drugs for many, many years, 25 years, very successful in that field. And she came by the ashram. She told me people are just out of control, that the addiction to pharmaceutical drugs because of mental instability is at an epidemic level. Epidemic. So this society that we live in is extremely demoniac. Instead of taking shelter of God, they take shelter of pharmaceutical drugs. That's what they're giving people, not knowledge. Transcendental knowledge is the way to get out of this material situation that we're in. It's a prison house. The key to get out is the association of the devotees of the Lord who understand that Krishna has delivered this message of liberation to the conditioned soul if you just are a little bit humble and prepared to listen. Like some people, they can't listen, Vijay Pandit. You tell them something, they look at you, I don't understand, or I don't want to hear it. Okay, then don't listen. But you're still responsible for your actions. Everybody is responsible for what they do. And there are things called the laws of karma. Now, someone could say, I don't accept the laws of karma. Well, you don't have to accept them, but they're there. You want to kill animals, you want to eat meat, you want to carry on with all this nonsense, and you expect there to be no reaction? You're a fool. Number one fool. We're giving you the opportunity. Prabhupada blessed us. You know, myself, Yaśodā, and myself, Prabhupada, Yaśodā told his story of how he came to Krishna consciousness. It was like he was just automatically drawn into it. It wasn't like somebody preached on him. He just came to Krishna consciousness. And, you know, myself, I was dragged into it. I don't even know how I got in. But it was the best thing that ever happened to both of us, was that we got the opportunity at a young age, you know, Yaśodā in 68 or 69, and myself in 1970, to take up Krishna consciousness and begin the process, the journey back to Godhead. So it's our responsibility, all of us, Prabhu, to be able to give this knowledge to other people. It's a great opportunity for them. Otherwise, they're in the prison house of material life. Vinkat Prabhu in South India, please.
There were two questions, so I thought I'll just read them out. There was one question on YouTube. So in the purport, there was mention of 10 processes for reformatory ceremonies. So one person is asking on YouTube, what are those 10 processes?
Yaśodā-nandana, are you aware of those?
Yeah,
ahead, please.
they're referring to the different samskaras or different Vedic ritualistic ceremonies. But in this age, many people, it's very difficult for them to perform those various activities. There's like, for example, Garbhadan samskara, the samskara of conception. There's other samskara after the child is born. 6 months later, there's another samskara of choosing between the Bhagavatam and the grains. When they're 5, 6 years old, there's another samskara of shaving their head. Then there's the samskara of getting the Gayatri mantra initiation. There's different reformatory ceremonies to basically engage the human being to elevate their consciousness to the spiritual platform. Now, for Brahmins, there is different samskaras. For Shudras, there is limited samskaras. But in this age, basically the ultimate samskara is to chant the holy name of Krishna. And that will be sufficient for spiritual elevation. I think we're reaching close to the end of the class. There was one comment from Bala Ganesh Prabhu. Maybe, I don't know, I can't remember what the comment was, but maybe somebody can try to get the,
I wanted to read that.
Venkat just get the actual statement.
Vinkat will read it. Go ahead, please, Prabhu.
So the question was, will the deviated ISKCON devotees come into any one of these 4 categories? The 4 categories meant we read today.
Go ahead, Yaśodā.
I don't think that Prabhupada intended to classify devotees, even sentimental devotees or materialistic devotees, in these 4 categories of demons. Although there are places in Prabhupada's books where he criticizes, for example, in the 2nd canto of the Bhagavatam in the purport, Prabhupada mentioned there are many renegades in the Brahma Gaudiya Sampradaya. We see in the Chaitanya Charitamrita how Prabhupada said there are many envious persons in the Krishna consciousness movement. In the 8th canto of the Bhagavatam, Prabhupada refers there are many karmis in the dress of devotees in the Krishna consciousness movement. So there are many imposters and sahajiyas and materially ambitious persons who sometimes come to approach the mission of the pure devotee. But even them, they will also ultimately get purified. But I don't think it's a good logic to make a general point that everybody in that organization is classified in these 4 categories. That is not a proper logic.
Okay, excellent. Further to that, I'd want to say this, that Prabhupada blessed us with an opportunity to explain Krishna consciousness to others. It's a responsibility. Now, if a person goes ahead and misuses that opportunity for personal motive, this is also a very serious offense. Very serious. We've seen, not to go over this, and we're not going to highlight it because we're finishing up the talk here today, but we see that so many people that we associated with misled people on the path of devotional service. This is very bad. And they're responsible karmically for that action. They're not exonerated from that karma. For example, in Russia. Russia was one of the most fertile countries in the world to attract new people. Very, very, very big numbers. I can remember when I used to come to India in the 70s for the festivals. I used to see, there was this devotee, Anandashanti, who was the original Prabhupada disciple that Prabhupada made when he went to Russia. He was only there for a few days. He initiated one. I had the opportunity to spend some time with Anandashanti on the phone. But I used to see the Russian devotees come to Vrindavan and Mayapur. I was kind of we're from the West here, so I was like, wow, very exciting to see people from Europe, start to emerge and especially from a communist country at the time, to start to come to Vrindavan and Mayapur for the festivals. And it was quite remarkable. But actually, after a while, it became a bigger part of the preaching work, very big. And then we saw that Krishna consciousness started to spread all throughout Russia in a very big way. So it was like, wow, this is amazing. And then all of a sudden, the head of that group fell down with his massage therapist. He was a sannyasi. He was a guru. He was leading thousands and thousands of people. His attitude was, well, I don't need my godbrothers anymore. I've got all these disciples. So he just, like a lot of us, we were all discarded it or became discouraged for whatever reason. And these other people just carried on. How bad is the karma of Vijaya Pandit for that? That you take the role of a so-called leader of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya and you mislead thousands of people. Well, I would say that that's very serious. The karmic reaction for that is not going to be forgotten in the annals of history. So we have to be very careful. If we have a responsibility to help others, we shouldn't mislead them. That is not good. Any last comment, Yaśodā? And then we'll end up the class.
In one of the classes, Prabhupada warns in Bhagavad-gītā, chapter 4, text 42, the last 3 or 4 sentences, that one should be very careful and not be misled by people who are after self-aggrandizement, who tend to mislead others. And this is a very big problem we're facing in this movement with many so-called self-declared spiritual authorities who mislead others from the actual pure devotee Srila Prabhupada. Very, very dangerous situation. One has to become intelligent enough to discriminate between sahajiyas and actual devotees, to understand the philosophy properly so that one will not be misled or swayed away from the actual path. Otherwise, one will not be practicing bhakti yoga, but bhukti yoga or some sign of sense enjoyment. Very important. That's why Prabhupada wrote all these books. So one should not be misled.
Thank you very much. We're going to be developing different programs with our group, our media team, which will deal more specifically with these issues. But we want to thank everyone for attending today. We've gone over a bit of time. It was a really wonderful verse and purport, very deep and illuminating for our group, and something that is part of the Prabhupada Disciples Association's platform of spreading Krishna consciousness. So thank you everyone for attending. Remember, we have Srimad Bhagavatam class tomorrow morning. There's 3 classes. we're reading all of the books. So it's a healthy diet of spiritual life from our efforts together. And we want to thank everyone who is supporting it for their voluntary participation. Volunteer is different than paid position. And it's very, very, very appreciated by all of us that you're attending the classes. And please extend an invitation to people you feel might benefit from the association that we're providing at the Prabhupada Disciples Association group. And we look forward to seeing you tomorrow for the Srimad Bhagavatam class. And I'd like to ask our friend, our godbrother, Bhaktivedanta, to please bring forward the kirtan. We'll chant along, we'll offer our obeisances, and back home, back to Godhead, everyone. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaurabhakta Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaurabhakta Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaurabhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama
Hare Hare. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and the assembled devotees of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Yeah.
Vanchakalpa, Tarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhu, Vaivaccha, Patitanam, Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha. All glories to Prakrita in Montreal, Haribo. All glories to Vijaya Pandit in Italy.
All glories to
in
Karma,
Canada,
Canada, and Yasoda.
South India.